Sometimes the things we fear are necessarily the things that we see. Sometimes they're the things we don't see. The things in the darkness. The things that are watching. We're never alone, even when we think we are. Hi, thank you so much for joining. This is an old live stream, so don't think it's a new one. This is actually based on hauntings, so I know many of you are interested in that topic. I hope you enjoy it. Please hit that bell button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to bringing you more from the vault of the High Priestess Studio group on Facebook. Take care.
Was chosen was based on hauntings that got the most votes. Let me just see how many actually voted. There were 13 that voted for hauntings. There were 9 that voted for missing persons, and for terrorist souls there were 3. So obviously we go with the one that gets the most votes. Got some really interesting things to talk about today. Obviously, I'm no stranger to hauntings. I actually live with 2 resident spirits. One is Chris and the other one is Tracy. Now sometimes Chris likes to touch things to let me know that he's around, or let others know mainly that he's around. So over there, right beside the phone, I've actually got like a little touch light, so if he wants to touch it at any time, Chris, you're able to touch it and let us know that you're here. Chris often drops into live streams and has something to say, not so much in the private group. I think he's respecting the fact that this is my space and we do have a bit of an understanding. The other spirit that we have in our home, her name's Tracy. She's a young girl. She's actually, come out of her shell, for want of a better word, over the years. She initially was one playing with cats in our house, so the cats absolutely loved her because she would go up and she'd straddle the cat. She'd walk like with her legs either side of the cats, and I was fortunate enough one day to actually capture that using a SLS X cam, which is it's seen on what's it called, Ghost Adventures, those who have Zach Bagan as their pin-up. I guess they don't make pin-ups anymore, but that is one of the products that I use if I want to show some evidence. That is, I don't really need it, but it's great to have some type of backup. Other occasions I've actually had Albert around. He was the office spirit. Albert is responsible for sending quite a few spirits to me. And lately I've been getting ones that are like, dressed in very 1800s style clothing, and one was like a lady or a countess or whatever you want to call them. So she was like sitting up on this really high chair, and she had her lady in waiting tending to her. So the lady in waiting was obviously lower and she was much higher, and they actually do appear quite a lot. Where possible, I do try to take photos. Okay, so some of the hauntings. So I've shared a little bit about you. A lot of the times where I've got time, that is, I will pop up on YouTube and I will put together a compilation of some of the things that I've been able to capture. If not, it's no big deal to me, because I think that I have proven enough on my YouTube channel already that there is something around. I mean, sometimes they don't want to be captured. This is typical of many spirits. You can't force them, and you should never ever force them to show themselves. They're not there as a circus act. They're not there for our entertainment. They're not there to do cartwheels for us, to prove anything. In fact, they don't need to. There are some that do understand that we want validation, that we want proof, but look at it this way, there are so many that have gone out there and ruined it, especially at locations. I've been asked to leave by them because of the fact that, one, they have had enough of people who have been abusive, who have, called them all sorts of names to try and get a reaction, and they're over it. They just want to be left alone. And so naturally, that's where, like I will say to them, look, I totally respect that. You're absolutely right. You're entitled to your privacy. You don't have to do anything. If you just want to talk to somebody or just be acknowledged, that's all I'm here for. And I will put the recorder away and I'll put the camera away because it's irrelevant. If they don't want that, then you've got to respect it. And that's what I do. So there are times when, I actually get what is like a group hug from many that have actually seen me at cemeteries and so on. I haven't been out for a while, I must admit it. And there was one time I actually just thought, just out of fun, I'll use a spirit box and I'll ask Spirit, where should I go? And straight away the word was Rookwood. So I get out there and I get, Karen, she's here. And I've got them coming from different directions all around me. And it's a really beautiful feeling. It's not just the serene of the location. It's not just the history. It's the fact that there are souls there, because the thing is, a lot of them will hang around cemeteries for this reason, is that they know people are going there with the intent to visit their loved ones. So if you haven't been to see your loved ones for quite some time, it's okay. Because there are times when if they feel that you're not going to visit them, they will come and visit you, so don't you worry about that. But anyway, some of the hauntings that we'll go into, first of all, are the residual hauntings. I guess you've all heard of residual hauntings. These are one of the most common type of hauntings. They occur in traumatic locations where there's been a murder, where there's been some type of tragic, way of dying. Many of them, it's not so much the spirit itself. The residual part is embedded into the location itself. I have both mine with me here at home. That's lovely. So the energy that is created from that event, if you want to put it that way, it begins to record itself. It is imprinted into the location. And that's why you could go to a location being a psychic medium and I could pick up a thing, like all of a sudden I'll just feel like this overwhelming feeling of fear or this incredible intense emotion that just makes me want to drop down and cry. I've had that experience, and it's not nice. It's a horrible experience, because it's like, why am I so scared? What the hell's wrong with this place, or what's around here? And then I snap out of it, and then I realize it's a residual energy that is embedded in that environment. Too many people think just because you've got an old home, it's automatically haunted. But you can get new homes that are haunted. Depending on the area, you could have like a vacant lot where a murder has taken place or some type of situation, and you can have a house built on that, and because it disturbs that ground, up comes that residual energy, and spirits do come from the ground up. This is one thing that most people don't probably know. When I see spirits, I'm always seeing them forming from the ground up. I've never seen ones that have just come down and then formed. They've formed from the ground up, and they usually have, I wouldn't say so much as a mist look to them, but they are very glowy, very, very glowy. And I think as I've aged, I don't know whether it's because of, being more aware, has made a difference, but they're not as solid as they used to be when I was younger. So that awareness and that innocence taken away from me when I realized that these weren't, real people. Suddenly I can tell the difference between a real person and a spirit. And a lot of times you won't have a spirit completely manifest. You'll have a partial manifestation, because the longest they can hold a manifestation is usually only for a few seconds. As I'll pop on this one. This was actually a time where one was in my daughter's room, and she came in and she said to me, "Mum, can you bring the spirit box into my room?" I went, and she said, "I've got a spirit in my room." And I thought, well, why do you want the spirit box? But then I thought, well, sometimes maybe she's not, Anyway, I thought, well, I'm not letting her touch it, but I took it in, and this is what we got. So,
Can you say your name, please? Are you watching over Tammy? Are you her friend? Yes. Are you Tammy's friend? Good. Do you like to be around us? Yes. Where are you from? Are you an angel? A ghost girl. Was that your voice then? Can you yell out, "Hello, Tammy"? Did you hear the little girl? Can you say hi, Tammy? Can you say hello, Tammy? She can hear you. How old are you? 8. Did you hear it? What's your name? Your girlfriend. What's your name? Do you have any friends where you are? Hello? Do you have any friends where you are? Are you just here to be friends with Tammy? Can you move near this and make the lights flash? Please, yeah? Could you move near that and make the lights flash? Can you say your name again, please?
I need you to say it really loud and clear. How long have you been here? Yes, you. The one in the background who said me. What's your name? If you say your name, Tammy will be able to say hello to you. What's your name? I'm going to turn this off now. Can I turn it off so I can vacuum in here? I need to vacuum in here. Hi, it's Karen, and I have my daughter with me at the moment. Now, she came in earlier and stated that she actually heard someone in her room, and she knew it wasn't me because I wasn't in there, and her room is too far from the ground for it to be someone outside the window, and she heard them talking around her. So I'm just going to let her say in her own words how the voice sounded. Okay, so what did you actually hear? Tell me what you were doing first of all before you heard the voice.
Well, I was like lying in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like on my iPad looking at photos, like maybe rainbows, or like looking at things like cats.
You have to talk up.
I was like looking at cats and like rainbows and all those kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard like gibberish talking.
What do you mean gibberish? How did it sound? Can you make that kind of sound?
It was like that.
You have to come closer because this might not record you properly.
It was kind of like something, or maybe like a kind of low whisper that could be able to hear,
Okay.
but you can't really understand what it said.
Mm-hmm.
And it was strange because it was like and like everywhere, like it was left, right, straight, and then back.
So all around the room.
Yeah, but it was weird because just only one voice instead of like 4.
So, just to clarify, who was home that night? Was it just myself and yourself, or?
It was me. Naomi was asleep, and you and me were the only ones awake.
Okay. Alright, so when you actually heard this sound, did it sound like a child or an adult, or was it male or female?
It kind of sounded like a male, and it was like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And like it sounded like it was like bouncing across the room. But
Okay.
no, actually.
Do you think it might have been Chris?
Probably. I haven't really heard his voice, or maybe.
Okay. So, because Chris has a bit of a deep type of voice.
It was like kind of in the middle of light and deep.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't really like really deep. It's like light and deep at the same time.
Okay. And you couldn't understand what was being said?
I couldn't understand the context.
So how long before you came in to ask me to bring the spirit box in was it?
Well, how long I stayed in there after I heard the voice, I just got up wondering, what was that? Was it Mom? No, it couldn't be Mom. Was it Naomi? No, I think Naomi's asleep. I can't hear any videos she is like watching, and I didn't dare to look out the window because I don't really like windows that much.
Okay.
So I just got up and then I was like sitting on near the borderline of the bed, and I was like staying there for a few minutes until I realized, and then like I started to run to your room because I didn't like when I hear a voice and at the same time it's dark. I don't like that, so that's why.
So your light was out?
Yeah, my light was out.
Okay.
And the only source of light was my iPad.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
And probably the lights outside the window.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like kind of closed half. It was like the curtains were kind of pulled back, only a tiny bit.
And was your window open?
No,
Okay.
it's closed.
All right. Okay, so when you came in to see me, what made you feel it was important to use the spirit box?
That it could be a ghost and that you have to contact it to see if it actually is it, or maybe you're just thinking it, because that can sometimes be the problem if you are a bit cuckoo. Or probably it's like outside of like a yell that sounds too far away and it actually sounds like an actual voice.
Right.
And yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And so through that we actually had quite a few that came through, didn't we? And after we did that and they went, did you have peace for the rest of the night? Good. Okay.
I think all we had to do was like bring in that spirit box so for them to know that I'm kind of a bit scared of how the voice was. Well, I really was scared.
Oh, okay. Because you couldn't understand it.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it. That's half, and the other half that it was nighttime. It was very dark, and that the only source of light was my iPad. And I always get scared that near the fan, there's like someone like very tall standing behind it with like an evil grin going to like.
But there's never been anyone standing behind it.
But I always like the since when I always have my iPad, the source of light hits to the fan and it makes like this sort of reflection, and I always get scared of it because it kind of looks like an evil face. That's why. That's where it came from.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining that.
Welcome.
Okay, so I'll stop that now. So, going back to some of these signs of hauntings and everything, this was obviously, I mean, it's a no-brainer. What I do for a living is definitely going to be attracting a lot of different spirits, and my family also have occasional visitations by these. Obviously, these spirits, even your loved ones, if they do come around, are actually, you know, checking out the home. Maybe they're seeing the other spirits here and thinking that, you know, they've got to get in queue or whatever. Because there are times when I begin my readings, I mean, this is not some type of thing where you can say, okay, this is, you know, the time where you don't say anything, I don't want you around me, I'm popping on a hat so you disappear. That is a load of rubbish. So you can't just turn it on, turn it off. If they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. Like people, you can have them in your room, or they can be walking around other places of the house. So just think of it like that. That's how spirits are. They're not going to be constantly staring you down. They're not going to be constantly bugging you, per se. And that's how I live. It is, you know, I do have them around me. Sometimes I have ones that are not really the kind of spirit I would want. Excuse me. Oh, my neck's getting stiff. So then we go into our next type of spirits, in interactive or intelligent haunting. And I really do have a very good video to show with that. And that is with the spirits turning on the light. So what I might do is just bring that up. The little image that you'll see in the first part is actually my daughter. A very old photo. For some reason there was a spirit that was standing in front of her, hence why the photo looks very, very strange. But I'll put that on now. You've got to cover that light completely to start it. Can you try to show yourself again? They like to touch this light. There they are. They like to touch the light. One thing I do is use a natural energy source near it. Some people think using batteries and so on, but I mean, lights contain batteries, and if they use up all the energy from that, it's going to be dead. They're not going to be able to use it. With using a candle, that is a natural energy. It's still a source of energy. So, you know, you've got the heat from the candle, which is, you know, churning over an energy. They use that. And this one's getting frustrated.
This is why people say you, yeah, I can see. This is why people say you should, well, why people light candles in seances and things like that. Is that the reason why? Is it not just for atmospheric
well, not
effects?
necessarily. I mean, candles to me are very calming to the environment. You should only have them on when you're in the room with the candle, so that, and don't just like have the room locked up. Otherwise, you'll be. But these are soy candles, so they're, you know, not going to harm you. They're not like paraffin wax or anything like that. So they're a lot healthier, if you want to put it that way. Paraffin wax is no good, especially for the lungs and so on. Can you come back? Right. They can touch things. I've actually seen them use the candle flame as a way of communicating.
Flickering, you mean? They flicker it?
They do. They flicker it. Yeah. They'll make the candle flame rise. You can do that even through a spirit session. So if you're communicating and you say, look, can you make the candle flicker? You know, but you've got to be careful that you don't have any flammables around it. You know, always have it in it. So that's not going to be lighting up anything.
Sure.
So you can go and have a look. So that'd be interesting. So Zara's got screenshots. They're back again.
You feel them.
Oh, what was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, that's a car, that one.
Did you catch?
That was a car.
No, not the brum, not the brum brum brum. There's a male voice just said something, like off an app or
Chris?
something. I kid you not. Yeah.
Probably
I don't know
Chris.
why it said it.
Yeah, Chris is always around me.
Voice. That was clear as day. I have no idea what it said, but it was a male voice. It just come through the earphone. If you could rewind or whatever, whoever's on here, rewind it, they'll hear it. That was in my ear, right in my ear. It was a male voice. It sounded like it was coming off an app or something.
So that'd be interesting still. I mean, they turned on the light.
They go, oh, wow, they have.
They turned on the light.
They have. Well done. Oh, my word. Have some
but they didn't show themselves. Can you show yourself now?
That's okay. Yes. If people want some validation, there you are, right there and then. You've been watching it. They turned off.
Yay!
There they are. Oh, my word.
You did really good. Do you want to try it again? Try it again.
This is amazing. Wow.
Come back and do it again. And you come back. And you come back. You want to show people?
Yeah. Oh, hello. Whoa.
Yeah. See them trying to come in and manifest. So you can see that their energy is all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hello. Whoa.
Yeah. See them trying to come in and manifest. So you can see that their energy is all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't think Chris would like being called a bald guy. I don't think Chris would like being called a bald guy. He said, don't call me that. So, yeah, you can come in. It's all right. You want to try touching it from where you are? Can you turn the light on? So, yeah, you can come in. It's all right. You want to try touching it from where you are? Can you turn the light on? Yeah, you did it! You turned the light on. Well done! Did you see it? Look at that.
I certainly did.
Look at the light. Well done.
Okay, so hope you enjoyed that one. That is basically the ones that I have chosen for today to show in the live stream. So that was interactive or intelligent hauntings, and these can actually be frightening for some people, depending if you're not used to that kind of thing. They don't intend to cause any harm to anybody, and there is actually, you know, they're the spirits that do try to interact with the living. They try to let you know that they're there. They, you know, unlike other spirits that won't let you know that they're there, but we'll come to those in a minute. But so at times they might be aware of the fact that you're trying to convey some type of message to them, you know, as in wanting to communicate, and they will respond. So intelligent ones, just like us, they can choose to ignore us, or they can choose to respond. Sometimes it might need a little help, such as, you know, giving them something to interact with you with, depending on your sensitivity. Sometimes you might hear and see things, you know, you might hear voices, you might see an apparition. Generally the apparitions aren't naked. They're seen actually wearing clothing that they wore when they were alive. So this can also be how they're wanting you to acknowledge them or see them. They still have their dignity, so they can imagine themselves being clothed, and they will appear clothed. They will appear sometimes even what their dead bodies wore when they were buried or cremated. The other type of spirit or haunting is that of poltergeist. Now poltergeist, the popular name is noisy ghost. So they're very popular in some locations, but as soon as they usually begin, they're very short-lived, and they don't, you know, hang around for very much longer, because they just want to get a rise out of you and then they'll move on to the next person generally. Sometimes they can be malevolent, meaning they're not very friendly. They can, you know, move objects around you. They can create noises like tapping. Sometimes they can assault animals and people. And sometimes they can assault other spirits that are in the home. And I've actually had a case where I captured them throwing poor Tracy down, and you could hear the thud. As I said, they can throw things, they can, you know, cause large pieces of furniture to move. Usually they'll accommodate with a foul type of smell, like a rotting kind of smell. Sometimes you'll hear what sounds like a really loud shriek. You'll hear sometimes screaming, and there's no source of the screaming. Sometimes they can just, you know, do something and you'll think I'm seeing things or I'm imagining things. And that's how they want you to react, because it's sort of like playing with your mind. So these spirits will and can play with your mind. The other type of spirit or haunting are demonic activities. Even though we are in a world where demons do exist, they never really had a human form, if that makes sense. So they've always been completely energy, just energy entities is what I would refer to them as being. The main purpose of the demonic, you know, haunting is they create chaos. They can create destruction. They can cause stress. They can cause a person even to die. Sometimes they can be, you know, described in certain ways, like they can be horrific looking, they can be evil looking, they can, you know, some people that have actually seen them say that they look extremely hideous. Their faces are just, a mixture of different expressions all at once, if that makes sense. Sometimes you can have ones that actually do look angelic. And this is another thing. This is why even in the Bible it says test all spirits. When I'm doing like a spirit box session or whatever, or when I'm with a person doing a reading and a spirit appears, I will then say to them, okay, I want you to tell me something only this person knows. Because the way that I look at it, if they're not going to communicate, and some don't want to, that's fine. I'm not going to force them, but it's important that they tell me something that substantiates their reason for being present. Otherwise, that spirit isn't welcome, the way that I look at it. They're around me, or they're communicating. If they're not going to give me something tangible for that person to say, yes, this is who you may be thinking of, or whatever, then I'm going to go to go on with the next thing. And so that's why I will say, okay, can you tell me their name? Or can you tell me your name? Or can you tell me how you passed away? That's why it's really important to question the spirits if you have one. And as I mentioned, some can be very beautiful. They can take a form in what looks like angels, and they can compel you to do something evil. Like they might say to you, and there have been cases, like think of these ones that, commit murder, and they say, you shouldn't put up with that. They're talking about you. You should kill them. You should do this. You should do that, and they can manipulate you. I've had cases, I remember when I was about in my 20s, and I had a case which was, to me it was quite disturbing, because I don't know whether you've ever heard of like people being, physically touched inappropriately. Well, I was asleep and I actually had a spirit that got on top of me and began to try to have sex with me, and it was scary. It was absolutely scary, and I believe that was a negative energy. In that particular place, I remember I was living in a unit, and the area that I lived in was Guildford, and I knew I had to get out of there. I was really strapped for cash. I contacted my grandmother. I said, Nana, I need to get out of here. There's something here. I was in the lounge room one evening, and I had a couple of friends around, and we were just sitting there talking, having a cup of coffee, talking, having a cigarette, and next minute this incredible noise, this like bang, whether it was like a mixture of poltergeist and demon, I don't know, but whatever it was blew the oven door off its hinges into the side of the refrigerator, which was sitting positioned in front of it. So you basically, when you opened up the oven, if you can think of a unit, there's kitchen's quite small, and there beside it was the actual refrigerator, like in front of the oven, but its side was facing the oven, if that makes sense. So when you open up the door, you had plenty of room to open up the door and get whatever in and out of the oven there was. However, the refrigerator, the only way that I could put it there was because of the connection, the socket. So I had the refrigerator here, but this thing, whatever it was, absolutely blew the oven door off its hinges, and there was nothing in the oven at the time. And for that force to dent the side of, completely put the dent in the side of the refrigerator, causing the refrigeration gas to start hissing. It was escaping. I had to turn it off. The refrigerator was stuffed. So basically on that, I said I had to get out, and the fact that, I was getting, I couldn't even go to sleep. I would be touched. I would feel things on top of me. I would feel them, breathing in my ear. I would feel them, grabbing my face. I never had scratches on me. I've never had that. But this was, to me it was frightening, because I was there at the time. I had my eldest with me, and she was a baby. So of course my fear instinct is, whatever this is isn't wanting me to see it. Then there was one time I had a friend who was over, and he went to the bathroom, and you had to go down a very long hallway, a narrow hallway. And then he was in the bathroom, and next minute he came running down the hallway towards the living area. And he said, "Where'd he go?" And I said, "Who?" And he said, "The tall, dark guy." And I said, "No one went by." Like I was too busy, tending to my daughter. I think I was feeding her or something. And he said, "I just saw, I had the bathroom door open, I was washing my hands." And he said, "And this tall, dark guy ran out of your bedroom all the way down the hallway. And I thought he was going to attack you or something, because he just, the way that he just took off." And he said, "But I couldn't see his legs. I could just see the top of him. It was a dark guy." And I thought, oh God, and there were times like I would go out, we'd come home and find the blind up on one side. At first, with all these little tiny things happening, you're thinking maybe someone's trying to case the place, maybe someone's trying to rob you. All these little things. And the veranda that was there, the door, sometimes I'd come home and find it open or ajar, and that was definitely locked. And I'd be checking through the house, nothing was taken, nothing was stolen, nothing was out of place, it was all there, and it was just constant. I got to the point, I asked my grandmother to help me. I need to have this money, I need to get out of here now, there's no ifs or buts. And because of, you turn to Nan, she gave me the money, and as the removalists were loading the stuff, the wall began to go sooty. It had like this soot kind of, film across it, and these handprints were beginning to emerge. And then all of a sudden, like one of the guys, they were the quickest removalists you could ever find, because they were running pretty much with the furniture out. They said, "Something is touching my back. Something's touching my back, like get out." And he said, "I'm not staying in this place." He said, "Lady, you've got something seriously bad in this place." And I said, "I know, that's why I'm moving." And he said, "Well, I just hope it doesn't follow." And I didn't know what to do. I had a lot of encounters. I had a lot of spirits, always from, when I was knee high. And then all of a sudden there's something completely out of the ordinary for me. Something completely unusual. It just didn't make me feel comfortable, didn't make me feel safe, especially for my daughter as well. So that was one of my most horrific experiences, which I had buried until going through my notes and thinking, okay, what am I going to be discussing in this live stream about the different types of hauntings? Because to be honest, I was caught off guard, but I thought that was, a very good topic regardless. And then we have the shadow hauntings, or shadow people as they're commonly known. Yes, I have those as well. I've had ones where I could be talking, to somebody on the phone. I'm seeing these shadow people moving around me. I've seen ones that have stood in the hallway outside of my office just looking at me, and I'm like gesturing, "Come here if you want to talk," and then they turn, they go. I've had ones where I've seen them constantly going up and down this hallway, the short hall outside my office, and they're just moving constantly through the home. Then I've had my youngest one, say that she was like one time at the sink washing up, and she saw in the window the reflection of someone walking behind her, and she said, "Who was behind me? Like, who was in the kitchen with me?" And I said, "No one, but probably a spirit." There have been times where we've been in the living area just talking. All of a sudden you'll hear things moving or shuffling around in the kitchen. shuffling around the knives and forks and everything like that. And I remember one time having family over. They said, "What's in the kitchen?" I said, "Oh, maybe a mouse. The houses get mice. Maybe it's something." I didn't want them to run out the door. If you are scared of them, you're going to then antagonize. Let me put it that way. So it's always important not to be scared of spirits. They're not there generally to hurt you. But think of it this way. If something, say you were a spirit, let's just use that as an example, and you want someone to acknowledge you, you are still somehow connecting with the living, you're seeing things going on, you want them to know you're there. They might notice a few little things, or just turn and you'll think they're looking at you, or they'll get up and you might say something and then they'll get up and you're thinking, oh, they've heard me. They want to do anything they can to get you to acknowledge them. And so they're not all necessary bad spirits. Shadow people, this is a type of haunting from different types of ghosts. There's no real explanation with shadow spirits. Often you will see them at the corner of your eye walking by. With me, I don't need that corner of the eye thing. I wish that was the only way that I saw them. I've seen them dead on. I woke up one night and saw the silhouette of what looked like a really old granny standing at the foot of my bed, all shadow. I don't know whether she had something on, because she was all shadow. She was all dark and standing there, and I said, "Who are you?" And as soon as I said that, she disappeared. I think it was just she wanted to be acknowledged. Then I remember when I was in hospital, I actually had what appeared to be a spirit standing near my bed. And what was quite scary is before going into hospital, one actually said, "Hospital's going to kill you." And I think, that was something that it was a little concerning, because of the fact that, I have a fear of waking up during operations. And so what happens? I'm having a knee replacement. I wake up and I hear the drilling, I hear the sawing, I'm feeling the tugging, and even though they've got like a sheet between myself and the surgeon, I could still I was aware of what was going on. And then I had this out-of-body experience where I'm walking around seeing the side of, them putting what looks like my kneecap into this small tray, this metal tray. And I'm saying to him, "Is that my knee?" And he's got the metal, that he's hammering in, and it's really a scary thing. With the peripheral vision, with a lot of spirits, they will often be seen by many outside that corner. You might have ones where you'll see what looks like a spark. Now sometimes you've got to remember, you can't just put everything down as spirit, and this is so important because so many people do. If they have a little bit of breeze in the home or something like that, "Oh, I've got a ghost near me." If they have something fall, "Oh, all of a sudden it's a ghost." If they see what looks like a face, mark from the rain on bits of wood or something like that, on their floorboards, they might look at the floorboards and think you're seeing an eye. That is pareidolia. And, yes, you will have certain things that might appear. You might get mold in your home. You might get other things. These are typical, with hauntings and so on. But with shadow people, they don't have any real human features. They are just a massive shadow. Sometimes they can be, like an outline that you're seeing, like an all filled in type of outline, if that makes sense. So sometimes they wear clothes because of the fact there's nothing to really be seen around them, like there's no coats or anything like that. But they can easily pass through walls as well. And a lot of times with spirits, especially ones like residual energies and everything, if you see a spirit that appears to walk through a wall, if you go back to a time either before that place was built, if there was something else there, there might have been a door in that particular area, or there may have been, you know, no house there at that time. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're just walking through the wall. What they're actually seeing is a time before the existence of that property, you know. But I've had ones that have come through a certain area where we actually put up a wall, a divider. They were walking through as though there was still a doorway there. So they see it, and everything, because it's made up of energy, if you think about it, even with, you know, buildings and so on, they are made up of energy. Everything around us is energy. So even if we fill in an area, you know, with a wall or something like that, or brick something in, that energy that was there before, that open energy well, is still there. I've gone to cemeteries, and as a very good example, I'll see if I can bring it up, because there was a case when I went to the cemetery and I got scared by a balloon. The scary balloon video. That was so funny. When we were actually using this sensor thing, it showed where all the graves were, because basically in the ground, when you dig up a hole, you're allowing what is obviously air and everything else to get in there. And even if that has been, you know, reburied or the resoil type of thing, the sedimentation is very different, because you're putting soil back in to a ground or an area where it's disturbed. It's not like the same sedimentation level as the rest of the area around it. And see if I can bring up that, because I really do want you to see that particular thing. I think it's really interesting. It'll give you a good example of what I mean with residual energy as well.
Oh my god.
Sorry. Do you see it?
That scared me. Where?
Right there, where the light's pointing. Can you see it move?
What, on the ground?
Okay, now on the ground there, you'll see these yellow light things, and I'm trying to sort of describe the area. First of all, the ground area looks pink, but then you'll see these illuminated areas that are yellow. They're actually where the graves are. Right, that is showing you, even though these are old graves and they've been there for some time, those lights or those lighted up areas means that the sedimentation in the soil is settled different to that of the original soil itself. So I'll go back to this and let you see.
Yeah. It's white and it's moving. Oh, look, it's
Okay, so I got scared because Taylor had a laser and hit a balloon with the laser, and all of a sudden I'm like, what? So that was one. One that I think may be a good indicator of, say, shadow spirits that were in my home, and they also brought in my dog.
Hello, baby. Can see you. Can see you, baby. Yeah. As you can see, there's nothing there, no shadow. Moving around. Just standing there. Can you appear? Can you try to come closer? Come on. Come on. Come towards me. Come on. Come on. Did you say my name? There's no curtains. Early blinds. There's nothing moving there. You can actually see right moving down the side here. Side of the bed. Thank you for coming and visiting me. Can you come towards me? Can you show yourself like a white light?
So that was actually seeing the spirit energy and creating a actual shadow on the floor. Now, bear in mind, there are no trees outside of that window. It was just full sun. It was basically a blind that is fixed to that window itself. It's not like a moving blind or anything like that. So to have that particular light be in the actual entrance of that room, you could you could actually see the spirit energy that was there, and I was really happy that even though you couldn't see the physical form, you could see its shadow anyway. Now, there is a few spirit videos that I have. Naturally, to play them all would take a day or more, but if you do want to have a look at the videos on the actual YouTube channel, just go to the High Priestess Studio on YouTube and you'll be able to see that. Now, I'm going to bring up one about Albert, who is my office spirit. Very playful, very friendly, always there to help me in many occasions.
I saw you.
Well, that was Albert, and Albert would, often play some tricks on me. He'd turn up at locations. And just so you know, our website now has a automatic pay option, so anyone who is interested in booking a reading, I would always still contact and see what spaces are available first before booking, because once you actually hit the pay now button, which is next to the actual reading type, which we've got that option now, it goes straight through to a PayPal thing, and then it directs you to the contact page. And I don't know whether you were able to see Albert's face appear in the actual cup, which is what I was doing the ITC on. That water session, that's called ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication, which we did on a live stream once before. And there, if you want to have a look at more videos, honestly, there's over 400 or 500 videos alone that are not just, you know, live streams. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the time there are times where I won't be given permission by Spirit to record them or to photograph them or to do anything else, so I've got nothing to put up. So I'm not one of these YouTubers that post daily or post weekly. It's just not possible. Even if you are, you know, completely constantly haunted, which we have a lot of spirits around us, mainly Chris and Tracy, but there is no way that you can possibly get evidence every single day or every single week, because a lot of times you'll pull out that camera or you'll go to take a video and they'll stop, meaning they don't want you to film. But I think before we go, I might just leave you with one, which I think is probably my favorite. Let me just bring that up for you. And it's the one where Tracy actually reveals herself through the SLS X cam, and I caught her playing with the cats.
What are you doing on the cat? Can you go back to the cat? Can you go back near the cat? Hi. I saw you. What's your name? Come back. Do you like the cat? Hi. Do you like the cat? Can you go and pat Pepper?